This is a first-hand account of the Arsenal hooligan firm from someone who was a witness to their activities. I am Mick the Bins, and for over 3 decades, I have constantly followed the Arsenal. This is the history of how I remember the early days. Well, the 1970s were the heyday of the football hooligan. There were more people involved than any other period of football hooligan history. Arsenal used to be at Euston Station, 9 AM Saturday morning, and that was for the home games. The Sun was required reading. It was the oracle of information. Who was in London that day? Did they have a mob? Would they be coming? The Sun became a tidy little tool when rolled up and folded over. The infamous Millwall brick. Some of the other shows would be the early bird scousers down on the Fever in London. The mob wouldn't do them, just clock their boats and tax them when they were going home. The best result was the Cockney Reds, always trying to slip out of London on the first train to Manchester. Poor bastards. Could have been run up and down Euston Road 3 or 4 times before they even got close to a train. Why the fuck they turn out every Saturday morning to take a kicking before the day had started? Arsenal will be waiting till midnight or beyond for them to return. Tough being a Cockney Red in them days. Every London firm loved catching them. The late night excursions between Euston and King's Cross were called the Midnight Patrol. At times when the pubs and clubs in the West End had turned out, the mob could number some several hundred. Many a northern firm that had parked its coaches in Midland Road came to a sticky end at the ends of this nocturnal nightmare. One result of the Euston escapades was Arsenal got to know a lot of geezers from other London mobs. Many would turn up at Euston for a drink and would often team up and go looking for northerners. This was the beginning of an enlightened cooperation between London mobs. The truth was, it's mostly Arsenal and Chelsea. In 1974, the FA Cup final, Liverpool played Newcastle. And you know what? 2,000 Cockneys marched down Wembley Way singing, "Maybe it's because I'm a Londoner." Blinded. Fierce fighting, mate. I'll never forget a story of a police horse that was charging at a London mob and fell down an embankment. Both sides stopped fighting and laughed. The old Bill copped the right and steamed the London mob back to Wembley Park Station. They then headed to Baker Street and waited for the game to finish. When the trains came through unloading the Northerners, the fighting resumed. The Underground this time provided mass transit for the London mobs and a place to be feared by visiting mobs. The day when pear-shaped Art of London attacked the Cockney Pride Tavern in Piccadilly Circus, Millwall decided to take on the rest of London. The London mob showed up several years after, never again in the same numbers, but that was its best day. At home games, most of Arsenal's boys would stand on the clock in terracing and indulge in attacking their away fans. Birmingham City one rainy night game were taken apart at half-time by a horde of telescopic, brolly, welding clock-end thugs. The clock-end mob would only usually go to the North Bank terracing for home games, in which an away mob might try to take the ends. No mob turned up. The clock-end would often take the North Bank for a laugh. You know what I really miss about the 70s? Was the taking of home ends. That was a test of bubble. People never knew what to expect when they went through the turnstiles, and sometimes you didn't even get that far. At Villa Park, about 150 Arsenal were trying to get into the old end. Everyone was keeping their voices down but not to attract the old Bill's attention. Actually near the ground there was some argument about which side of the old they were going in. At the time, the Old End had just been split in half by 2 rows of spike-tipped metal fencing, which ran from the top of the inn to the bottom. The decision was made to go in on the Trinity roadside. As soon as the first 10 or 20 had gone through the turnstiles, a massive roar went up, and people could be heard screaming in pain. The old bill immediately shut the turnstiles, cutting off all hope of rescue for the poor bastards who had gone in first. As soon as the fighting stopped, they opened the turnstiles and pushed the villa mob back on the terracing. The rest of the Arsenal mob then went straight into the Old End, with both the police and villa thinking it was over. Arsenal then moved into the middle of the terracing. The group together turned and let a roar of "Arsenal! Arsenal! Arsenal!" charged up and into the main body of the villa mob. In the end, the old Bill turfed Arsenal out, led them round the pitch that went round it, and the applause of the way Arsenal continued. The fashion of taking ends was over, and by the mid-1980s was